Well, here I am, 4 or 5 years. I think this is the 5th year. Then we're going into 6 now. This is the fifth, 5.5 years. Later. They still don't, the doctors, they still hang on to one way or the other. You're not going to make it. I want to say a lot, but I can't say a lot. It's just not practical. I've done several videos, not several, but enough, a few of them, along the way to kind of highlight maybe certain turning points or pivotal points in this process, or when things have just been so much that I had to get it out, kind of document it. This is more of a personal journal than anything else, but also the same time frame as the one thing I can do to kind of bring those that care to know up to speed with my current progress or where I'm at, my status, so to speak. So I'm all right. I got we're this stage that we're in. We're in the fix it stage. Okay. We finished the mission. We made it back. We hit the ground, and what made it made it. What didn't make it didn't make it. We didn't lose no personnel, but we took some blows. It's time now that we pick up the pieces and make do with what we got, and take what's coming. That's coming, we take what's coming down the road. We don't know any of these things, and life is kind of uncharted at this point, which is something I thought I could never be okay with. It seemed to be poor to not have this extenuating plan long out into the future saying what's going to be this, that, and the other. But from what I've learned on this journey, that's just a pacifying thought, because you can't say what's going to be. I know I've tried. All you have is the moments that you live. Each moment. And I say that because I watch people all alone as I'm going through this. I'm supposed to be dying, and people dying all around me. I can't buy a ticket to die. Believe me, I've tried. To the point of just pure frustration. I've learned that some things you start must be completed. There's no way out. You can't opt out. You gotta finish. Small example, crude example. You find yourself on an airplane and all of a sudden outside the airplane and it's still in flight, you can't opt out. You're gonna hit the ground. You are falling. It ain't but one way that this thing is going, and that's down. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Now you can scream and holler all the way down and never prepare yourself for the impact. Whether you're prepared or not, you're gonna hit the ground. You're gonna get to the end of the road. Once you start, you must finish. How you finish is on you. How you hit the ground is on you. Whether you continue on, continue about how you hit the ground. So hopefully you had a plan when you left the plane. You didn't just find yourself against your will outside the plane. Sometimes in life things happen. You find yourself outside the plane falling. Yeah, so you better realize that, you know what? I don't have wings, but I can glide. Bet you bet. I can float my hands some kind of way and look for something soft to kind of land, something to break this fall some kind of way. You got to find a way amidst all the circumstances you coming through that you're going to have a hope, an opportunity to be able to keep moving. That means you got to keep your mind. That's the only thing you got. You got to keep this rolling. Everything else is somehow secondary. Because if your mind don't make it, in no sense, no parts of your body, I mean, what good is that? Your mind is what's got to make it. And it's the first thing that's got to be on point. You do whatever you got to do to preserve your mind. And that's where I am. I made it. So I might not look like much. I might have I don't know what it's like for you to, anyone to observe. I do know that it's dramatical and it's a whole lot for anyone that cares. I say to you, I get it. I used to be upset. Would say that I was by myself. One thing I've learned, and when I say I've learned, it's not that I ingeniously came up with a solution. Most of these instances, when I say I've learned, God has said to me, explained to me, given me the full understanding. People say family be the first one to abandon you. Family can't accept change. Family knows you in the way that they've known you, and they're unwilling to, it's not easy for them to process change, negative change. You can always grow and get better. And even then, that might be tough and challenging for some. People want you to stay just like they know you to be. And that's what's comfortable for them. When something tampers with that, it affects the connection for a vast majority of them. I say that because I look around and I thought that I would have had, a wife and children and, and, all that. You would think that you would have that. You would have this clamoring of people around you with that support. And for some, they're allowed that. In my case, that's not what God had in plan. He didn't have that. The conditions that I went through on a spiritual level isolated me. And you heard that song, God's trying to tell you something. In the wind right now. If God has something to say to you, and it's one of them kind of things, He clears the room. So He cleared the room. Whether you like it or not. I didn't like it. So my mind went through all those things. My attachments and what they were, I held on to what I held on. All of that stuff. He cleared the room. And He cleared the space. Left nothing but me and Him. At the end of the day, that's what all this was about. That's what all of it was about. And I get it. So I said that to say, and that's what I think that the whole point of this message, and it took a long time to kind of get to this point. I apologize for that, but that's what the whole thing was to really get that. There was a change, a revolutionary change in my life. Of course, it came to me in things that I could digest. You're gonna die. You got cancer. This is broke. Your heart ain't no good. You lost your family. You lost your this. You lost your that. You got this kind of problem. You're stuck on this, you're stuck on that. Just what all kinds of problems. But they were just monumental. They were just steps of change, in increments that I could process. But when I got to all of it, you look at it in totality, he was just wiping everything away to bring in what he wanted to have in. So all my ideas he threw out the window. And said, my program is blah, 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 blah. And it's still running that down to me now. So I'm okay. That's where the peace comes in at and everything I've gone through. So when I don't spend a lot of time talking to you. I'm talking to family right now and maybe even close friends. When I don't reach out and you don't hear me say something because it's a private conversation. Nothing you can do about it. You're not in control of it. You're just in the bleacher seat watching. And if I'm on the playing field, I can't be looking in the stand because I can't play the game. So I'm in the game. Ain't nobody on the court with me and God. So this is something that's happening in my life. And obviously, no one can be involved. So that's where the silence comes in at. People interpreting what's happening, trying to maintain their position that they once had in my life, all that's been removed. The steps that I take and whatever I take, it's all in accordance with the conversation that God and I are having. Nobody else really can say anything. That's factual. Okay? It may have some relevance in the real world, but on a spiritual level, and as far as God making a change in my life, giving, he puts you go through circumstance, and the circumstance educates you, and you come out that circumstance hopefully with something gained, a lesson learned, a paramount thought, a resolve, change. If you don't go through something, then you can't have no change. So when you're going through, no matter how long or arduous or painful or ugly it might look from the bleacher seat, it's the lesson that's necessary for that individual to get what they're supposed to be getting as God delivers it. That's just how he operates. That's what's been going on in my world. That's where I'm at. I say this to anybody that's going through anything, you already know. Those that have not gone through, I think everybody went through something like this at this point in your life, but for those of you that live long enough, you'll go through some things. God will at some point, somehow, some way, in a fashion that's conducive for you and your life. Everybody will have some kind of a situation like this. I think. That brings them to a point in life as to where they transition into something more or to what God's will had for them in their life. And I think that's all that's happening to me. So it's not important how many days I got left. Not important an agenda, a schedule, All things have been provided for. I make more money now than I did when I was working. Almost, well, actually, yeah. Yeah, as if I was working. The cash should actually put in my pocket. I don't have life like I would have prescribed it. I have life as he has prescribed it. And it's being issued in terms that he has approved. And for a person with my makeup, where I came from, that was very difficult to accept, but very, very plausible. Very, very comprehensible. It's a very succinct message. It's the kind of thing that I said, I'm talking to you. You know what I mean? Do you hear me talking to you? It's one of them. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you. So you change your role. you know, you you start to come at it a little different. You know what I mean? It brings you to a point that's desirable. Let me say this. I've heard Dr. King give that speech all my life. When I listen to it now, it has a granularity, it has a level of gravity to it that I could never hear before. When he say, I wish that I could live a long life, long and prosperous life. I may not get there with you. My eyes have seen the coming and going of the Lord. I've been to the mountaintop, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. This is an admission that I won't get what I want the way I want it. It's going to happen the way God wants it. And I got to be okay with that. So I just want to do God's will. Because his will is going to happen whether I'm with it or not. And the best thing for me to do is align myself with God's will so that there's something for me when I hit the ground. Ain't no sense in me screaming and hollering because I am falling. This is going to happen. Some things you start, you must finish. You got to get to the end of the road. So, yeah. I'm going to do God's will because there ain't no other way to do it. Yeah. So I'm all right. I'm not deranged, but I'm all right. And thank you for listening. I'm okay. All right. For those of you that care.